The year is 2050. The world has changed dramatically over the past 3 decades in response to seismic technological, environmental, and societal shifts. While tensions and conflicts persist in many regions, there is a growing spirit of cooperation and shared destiny emerging on the global stage. The biggest driver of geopolitical evolution has been the rapid development and proliferation of new technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, biotech, and quantum computing. Their impacts have been enormously disruptive economically, socially, and strategically. Developed countries moved quickly to adopt these technologies and experienced enormous gains in productivity and innovation. Developing countries lagged behind, widening the global inequality gap. Countries and corporations raced to acquire and control critical resources needed to dominate these technological fronts, like rare earth minerals, human capital, and massive datasets. Policies shifted to protect strategic industries and digital assets, with intellectual property and technology security becoming major friction points. These economic and technological struggles increasingly defined relations between the major powers. At the same time, climate change accelerated far faster than anticipated. Extreme weather events grew more severe and frequent, wreaking havoc on communities and supply chains. Climate refugees fleeing devastated regions became increasingly common. Competition over habitable land, food supplies, and other scarce resources put strains on many nations. Infrastructure upgrades and mitigation strategies were undertaken, but required levels of coordinated effort and funding not reached initially. As the consequences of inaction became more dire, old geopolitical divisions were gradually overcome in the face of this shared existential threat. One pivotal development was the 2045 United Nations Climate Accord, signed by all major economies. It levied taxes on carbon emissions, banned certain unsustainable practices, and directed trillions of dollars toward climate adaptation projects across the developing world. While imperfect, it represented a new spirit of global cooperation and responsibility. With climate change also came mass migrations that profoundly reshaped the ethnic character and political priorities of many nations. Xenophobia and reactionary nationalism surged in response among some populations, but progressive leaders embraced diversity and focused on integrating newcomers. They contended that heterogeneity was a strength that brought dynamism, new perspectives, and human capital. Economically, Asia continued to drive growth. By 2050, China and India were unambiguously the world's largest economies. Asia broadly led advancements in technology, renewable energy, and modern infrastructure development. The resulting prosperities permitted greatly expanded social services and poverty reduction programs. However, aging populations posed fiscal and social challenges. Creative solutions like automation and AI-driven healthcare aimed to maintain high standards of living and social stability. There were some bumps along the way as aging autocratic leaders relinquished power to younger generations with new priorities and values. The United States remained a dominant economic, technological, and cultural force, though its political leadership was hampered by internal divisions. Attempts to cut off immigration and access to global supply chains undermined its competitiveness. Eventually, breakthrough clean energy technologies helped the U.S. reclaim ground. Politically, the U.S. gravitated back toward multilateralism and its traditional alliances in Europe and Asia. Europe struggled with economic stagnation and refugee flows through the 2030s, but got its house in order to emerge as a tightly integrated union of over 30 countries by 2050. Free movement of peoples and a common digital policy enabled substantial innovation and shared prosperity. Europe leaned on its social democratic values to build an open, inclusive society. It also asserted itself more on the global stage as a champion of human rights and judicial institutions. Africa benefited from its youthful demographics and rising education levels to become a dynamic new growth pole. Chinese infrastructure investments paid off by better integrating African markets and trade across the continent and beyond. Creative applications of mobile and ag tech helped improve livelihoods. African nations forged stronger political ties within their subregions, though pockets of instability remained. The Middle East remained plagued by religious fractionalization, water scarcity, and the corrosive influence of oil politics. But its expanding green energy sector and technology hubs provided new jobs and rising incomes for millions, opening space for progress. Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia vied for regional leadership, while Israel continued its democratic traditions. Broadly, ideology came to matter less than pragmatic problem-solving. Issues like public health, climate resilience, balanced growth, and technological progress created more consensus than traditional left versus right debates. Religion's role in politics mostly diminished, especially in the West, as populations became increasingly secular. Of course, major powers still jostled for geopolitical advantage and spheres of influence. Military spending continued to climb globally, but nuclear non-proliferation efforts met with increasing success. Most elected leaders recognized globalization, and new media made outright confrontation unacceptably risky. Cooler heads prevailed around flashpoints like the South China Sea, Kashmir, Iran's nuclear program, and North Korea. Some level of conflict seemed inevitable, but the emergence of a global middle class, greater educational exchange, and stronger international institutions embedded shared norms. Citizens demanded more transparent, democratic governance. Automation, rising productivity, and greener energy lowered resource pressures. Overall, this cooperation and de-escalation represented a departure from the preceding decades of polarization and confrontation between major powers. It was forced upon leaders by necessity given existential, technological, and environmental threats. Imperfect world governance kept critical lines of communication open, allowing for steady if uneven progress. People still dreamed of a utopian world without strife. But given humanity's fractious history, the emerging geopolitical order appeared a very hopeful development indeed. Subscribe.